Well, good afternoon. My name is Kevin Dillon. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Airport Authority. I want to welcome you all to Bradley. Thrilled to see the level of attention for this very important announcement, the establishment of a COVID-19 testing site here at Bradley Airport. Before we start, I want to recognize a couple of folks. We have a number of our board members here. We have Mary Ellen Jones with us today. We have Commissioner Giulietti, who's the Commissioner of Transportation, also on our board. We have State Treasurer Sean Wooden. You'll be hearing from him shortly. And we have our board chair, Tony Sheridan, with us as well as we have representatives here from Genesys Labs, who will be partnering with us on the site. As all of you know, the pandemic has greatly impacted the aviation industry and certainly the entire hospitality industry. If you go back to April, the airport was down about 97% in terms of passenger traffic as compared to a similar time period a year ago. Right now, we're averaging being down about 75 to 80%. So it was very apparent to us as early as March that we really needed to start to do things to instill confidence in the traveling public to resume flying. So we certainly enhanced the cleaning protocols of the terminal and the sanitizing of the terminal. We work with our TSA partners to limit TSA officer and passenger interaction. And as you look around the terminal, you can see we've installed plexiglass barriers to separate passengers from employees for passenger protection. We also established a program here. It's known as BDL Cares. You can go online, see bdlcares.com. And passengers can read on that website what their travel experience will be like coming through Bradley Airport. It also highlights what our airline partners are doing here at the airport in terms of their cleaning and sanitizing of aircraft, how they're maintaining social distancing on the aircraft. So it's a lot of good information there for folks to see. But the announcement of a COVID testing site here at the airport is the next logical step to give passengers a sense of safety and convenience flying through Bradley Airport. Now, we're going to give you a lot of details today about how that site is going to work, but before I do that, I'd like to introduce a great supporter of Bradley Airport, and as I said earlier, he also happens to be a member of our board. It's my pleasure to introduce State Treasurer Sean Wooden. Treasurer.
Thank you, Tony, for the invitation to join all of you today, and thank you for your great leadership of the Airport Authority. Thank you, Genesys Diagnostics, for your partnership and your leadership, and for being right here as a Connecticut homegrown company, and for helping us lead in the fight against COVID-19. As treasurer and as a member of the Connecticut Airport Authority, this day and this moment is really special. As Tony talked about, the airline industry has been hit very hard nationally. We have felt that impact right here at Bradley, and I am consistently focused on our state's economic viability, our growth, and sustaining us for the long term. And Bradley International Airport is an incredibly important piece of our future economic growth. And so this announcement today, having this testing done right here, is an excellent example of our state, and we have been a leader in terms of COVID-19 safety and how this has been managed. And this is an excellent example of bringing together both safety being paramount for our residents of Connecticut, as well as those visiting our state for business or leisure, and balancing our economic interests as a state without compromising either. And so I'm happy to be here. The more we combat COVID-19 and treat it as the public health crisis and keep that front and center, the quicker we will get back to our full economic strength, and which the future of Bradley International Airport, under the leadership of this board, under Kevin's leadership, and what's going to happen here with the number of flights and the vision, is very bright. We are going through a dark period now, certainly, but the step today is a step absolutely in the right direction, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And I'm excited to get tested once again after this. So thank you. And with that, Tony, our terrific board chair, will say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, last March when we all began learning about COVID-19 and the potential of the damage that was about to occur, the board and Kevin and his wonderful staff went into high gear to take all the necessary precautions to keep people safe. This airport is, I believe, Kevin, is it third on the Condé Nast list?
Yes. Respecting those rankings and coming out against shortly.
Third on the Condé Nast list for airports of our size in the country. And that's in large measure thanks to Kevin and his great staff for being so diligent in bringing flights to Bradley. And as you know, last week Kevin announced 4 additional flights, JetBlue flights, out of Bradley. So we're in a great spot, and as you drive up to the airport, you can just look around and you can see what's happening here. We will have a drive foot from your living room to the plane when all this work is done. And we will be, I hope, number one. And all right, Kevin? Number one.
Pressure's on.
So thank you, Mary Ellen, my colleague, and the other board members who work so well with Kevin and his team. And thank you to Genesys, a homegrown company, Connecticut company, who will now be helping us out, doing the right thing here to keep all of our passengers safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Just a couple of specifics on the testing site itself. I think it's important to note this is one of very few testing sites in the country that are now located right at an airport terminal. So it's rare that you'll see this in the airport business. But as I said earlier, we're pleased to partner with Genesys Labs. As been noted, they're a Connecticut-based company, and they're doing COVID-19 testing throughout the state, so they're very experienced in it. The testing site will be located on the lower level of the terminal across from the bag claim belts number 5 and 6. So it's easily assessed by all of our passengers here. Genesys will accept insurance, as well as there will also be a credit card option in case people do not want to process insurance for whatever reason. We are upfront limiting the testing to passengers and employees only. Right? So passengers that are flying in or out that day will be eligible to avail themselves of the testing. Passengers will have to show a boarding pass for travel that day. In terms of the actual processing, we are encouraging folks to pre-register. That will speed your trip through the processing center. Very easy registration process. You go to Genesys Lab site, which is gdilabs.com. So that's gdilabs.com. And under the COVID-19 tab, you can register right there for your test here at Bradley. And the exciting thing for us is we do expect that these test results will be available for passengers within 24 hours. All right, so it was very important for us to be able to offer this option to travelers, to make it easy for them to travel, convenient for them to travel, to come to Connecticut and do business. So in the case of somebody taking a test right here at Bradley, they may only have to quarantine for that first 24-hour period while they're waiting for those results. So again, it's very, very convenient. I certainly want to point out that there's a lot of people that are responsible for bringing us to the point we are today. There's a lot of work that's gone into this over the past few months and certainly over the past few weeks, not the least of which was our local legislative delegation. And in particular, I'd like to call out Representative Tammy Zawistowski, who has been a great supporter of the airport and has been very helpful in this effort. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to head downstairs to the actual location where the testing will be done. We have a couple of folks that have volunteered to actually take tests. so you can see how easy the process really is. As we go downstairs, I would just caution, we're trying to get everybody to maintain some level of social distancing. So if you can keep that in mind as we go downstairs. But I think, Alyssa, you're going to lead us down there? Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we're going to monitor right up front, what the actual demand is. We're not certain right now what that demand will be. One of the things that we'll be looking at, if we see that this site becomes oversubscribed, we're already in discussions about expanding to an additional location here on the airport where it would be a drive-through option. We'll utilize one of our parking lots to have vehicles actually drive through. So a passenger can come through. If they don't want to, wait at this site, then they can just go out to their car, get in the car, and then drive through the parking lot site. We're not committed to that at this point. It is something that we're looking at. We first want to understand what the demand is at this location.
And then, we have, obviously been talking to the passengers, and, we ran into this couple from Florida who had, they were visiting, they came to look at the toilet. They had no idea about the 72-hour rule or the 14-day quarantine. So how are you thinking about people who are coming to the United States?
Yeah, we're working with our airline partners to highlight the travel advisory to begin with so that people understand they are subject to that. I think if you come in on a flight, most airlines are making announcements right as you arrive here at Bradley, advising you that you need to fill out the travel advisory form, advising you of the quarantine need, and now advising you of the testing capability. One of the things we're going to be doing is working with the airline partners to advise people on their outbound trip to already pre-register for when they come back so that they can get the test and avail themselves as soon as they get off the plane. We're hoping that we can open it later on today to the public. Yeah, I think, as we've looked at, safe queuing down there, we believe we can accommodate somewhere around 45 to 50 people at a time. Right now, as you know, the flight activity at Bradley is very depressed. As I said earlier, our passenger traffic is down about 75 to 80%. When you look at actual operating flights, we're down less than our normal number of departures here from Bradley. So there is limited activity coming in, and on those flights that are operating, because the airlines in most cases are keeping that center aisle seat open, there are reduced loads on that flight. So we do believe we're going to be able to keep up with demand. But as I said, if we learn within the first couple of days, we already have commitments from Genesys as well as other labs that they would like to establish a mobile site here at the airport as well. Yeah, the cost of the test, if you're going to take the cash option, process a credit card, is $125 per test. But Genesys will certainly be prepared to process insurance as well. Absolutely, that's a very important point, that whether you're intending on taking the test here at the airport, you still have to file that travel advisory form with the Department of Public Health. Right? That's a very easy thing to do. You can just go in any search engine and type in CT travel form. Comes right up. So people still need to do that in addition to the test. Yeah, we think this is really going to help quite a bit, because when you think it through, it's very difficult, whether you're a business traveler or a leisure traveler, to commit to a trip knowing that you have to quarantine for 14 days. Right? Take a business traveler, are they going to come into Connecticut, quarantine for 14 days, and then conduct a day or two of business? Now it gives them the ability to come in, take the test, and then get that negative result within that 24-hour period and conduct the business that they have. So we do think this is going to make it a lot easier for people to be able to travel through Bradley Airport. And I think, You know, you saw with the announcement that the airport made last week with the new JetBlue service. JetBlue did attribute them being able to move forward with that service with the fact that this testing option was granted by the governor's office.
Any expectation that the time frame could be lowered from 1 day? Any expectation that the time frame could be lowered from 24 hours down to just a few hours?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think, you know, as we've worked with a lot of different labs, and, you know, I can certainly let Genesys speak to this point, but we have found that they are probably the quickest that's out there. Other labs that we have talked to were only able to commit to a 3 to 5 day period. So we feel very fortunate having a partner like Genesys that can make this commitment to 24 hours. I know there's a lot of discussion about the potential rapid test being brought on board. There's a lot of demand for that test right now, so we don't have the availability, but that's something that we'll be discussing with Genesys going forward, whether or not we can introduce that at some point. But right now, I think, you know, to be able to get that negative result within 24 hours is a far cry from having to quarantine for 14 days. Well, again, you know, every airline, before you travel, is requiring you to acknowledge when you get your boarding pass that you're symptom-free, okay? So, again, you know, we ask people to follow the basic common sense, you know, to making sure that you're washing your hands and following all the safety protocols, the social distancing. We're trying to do the best we can in our own hold rooms, as well as working with the airlines to try to maintain that as best as possible on the aircraft as well. But again, that's why we feel very comfortable with this site, because these are people that are being tested to prove they're negative, right? To get on the aircraft, they had to acknowledge they do not have symptoms.
The testing to be somewhat 24/7, even like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., things like that?
Well, again, we're going to monitor what the demand is. Right now, because of the reduced level of activity, our first arrivals into Bradley are about 11 o'clock in the morning. So we're anticipating right up front that we will staff this location from about 11 o'clock in the morning to midnight. And midnight is usually when our last arrivals are coming in. Those hours can be adjusted, you know, based upon what we see with demand. Okay. All right, so at this point, maybe Alyssa, we can all follow Alyssa, we'll head down to the site.